facial recognition technology to be rolled out nationally and police also get AI support. This is from an online Sky News article. The Home Secretary has set out the government's long-awaited reforms to policing in England and Wales, which aim to reduce the amount of time officers will spend behind their desks instead of being on patrol. Facial recognition technology is to be rolled out across England and Wales to help all police forces under sweeping reforms announced by the Home Secretary. Shabana Mahmood told MPs that the government will invest more than 140 million in new technologies to assist officers in the fight against crime. The minister also announced in the Commons that all forces across England and Wales will be given artificial intelligence tools to help reduce the amount of time that officers must spend behind a desk, allowing them to be on the beat more instead. Alongside the expansion of AI within the police, the nationwide rollout of live facial recognition will be used to catch wanted rapists and murderers. The Home Office has called the changes the biggest reforms to policing since the police were professionalised 2 centuries ago. Laying out the police reforms white paper, Ms. Mahmood revealed that more tech experts such as digital forensic specialists will work with police forces to tackle fraudsters, criminal networks on the dark web and identify criminal hotspots. The Home Secretary said crime has evolved but police forces haven't. Fraudsters and serious organised crime bosses are outsmarting them. Under my reforms, forces will now hire more digital, cyber and forensic officers to put violent criminals behind bars. Under the plans, an existing 10 facial recognition vans will rise to 50, rolled out nationwide to catch criminals on police watch lists, and will be overseen by a national centre on AI. The rest of the article is quite lengthy and goes on for a little longer. You can read the article online. Many people are concerned in terms of how will it affect local policing, because if the police forces are being reduced from, according to some reports, to create a different type of policing, and now AI being used, of course you can save time on admin and other stuff, but at the same time admin is often responsible for making mistakes, like releasing prisoners that they shouldn't be releasing or stuff like that. And there's been reports that AI has been behind that, regardless if it has or hasn't. But now using AI is a potential to make mistakes when you don't need to. You can use AI for other things in the policing, and then also with live facial recognition cameras, people will be concerned about their privacy. Of course, you can say if you've got nothing to hide, you don't need to worry. It's not necessarily about that. It's about, by having these cameras, by default, everyone's assumed a criminal. That's why you have to have these cameras, and if and when they commit crimes, then they'll be useful, which many people are saying, which is concerning. But I guess police and politicians and other people will say they'll help tackle crime, but then also you're almost pretty much neglecting privacy, as well as making sure everyone feels like they're already a criminal as soon as they step out onto the streets, being watched by these live facial cameras. And I guess people will always have a worry about this. And also, they're doing all of these things when many of the problems that is facing policing is to do with money and to do with other things that are not related to technology. So you're spending all of this money on this whilst neglecting other things which have been affecting the policing across the country. And people will say you have the money for this. Of course you have the money for this because this will help you do X, Y, and Z. But what about the money for the local police? And often police are not attending people's homes when they've been burgled or there's been other issues. There's no money for those things on the ground for the local residents when it matters, but there's tens of millions for things like this, which will make people more angry, regardless of if it's to do with privacy or not. People will be angry because you're spending all of this money for this, but when it comes to people day to day dealing with the police, when it affects them and no police standing up, that's where it really matters, and you're not investing the money there. This money should be invested in local community police officers to help the local communities, but it isn't. Many people will argue. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes and if it lasts, and even if it lasts, how it impacts people, and also it has made mistakes, and the mistakes that it'll make in the future, how will it impact the policing and the trust in the police and in the government? Because if someone is incorrectly flagged up on the facial recognition and then they go through X, Y, and Z, and then it turns out they have nothing to do with anything, people will be not only upset because you've taken away their privacy to an extent, but you wasted and spent money on things like this, where you could have been spending money in police to make sure that every time someone says needs police at their homes, police turn up instead of not turning up. So there's no money for those things which are more important in a way, which happen more often, but there's money for these things, and many people are not surprised, and I guess it shows you the priorities of some people in the government.